but I was doing it more for my dad because it was his dream. I was doing it for my coach Kevin at the time because he wanted to have a heavyweight world champion. And when I achieved it, I sort of wasn't the happiest, maybe because it was for them. I didn't look at it as mental health at the time. But now that I'm having a bit more discussions about it, maybe I went through the same thing. I've missed a lot of special occasions, because of this goal that I have.
So you get a buzz out of that?
A lot of people think that he's invincible and he can take every punch out there and he's, obviously they call him the juggernaut. But I will show everyone what I could do in the ring.
Joseph Parker, or Morecambe Joe, I understand.
Morecambe Joe.
How's it going?
Good.
Yeah?
Very good.
Enjoy the press conference?
Yeah, listen, it's the first press conference that I've been involved in that's quite fiery, because usually it's quite, respectful and quiet, and it's going to be a great fight. But because of the lead up into making this fight happen, there's a lot of frustration from both sides. And I know we're outnumbered at the top, but if David Higgins was here, he would have a lot to say, because they were a nightmare to deal with, and they're saying the same about us. And we can go back and forth and say this and say that, but ultimately, it's great that the fight's locked in now, and we have a date, we have a venue, and there's two guys who want to smash each other's faces.
I'm just excited to be, in the best fight, in the best shape, and really put a dent in his face.
Joe Joyce said he's going to put loads of dents in your face as well. Is that something you're looking forward to?
He can try his best, and I'm going to do the same to him. He hasn't fought anyone like me before. So it's going to be.
Why are you different then? Because he's 14-0. There's no blueprint really as a professional as to how to beat Joe Joyce. What makes you so different?
I am confident with the new team that I have. Nothing wrong with the old team. We achieved great things together. But I have Andy Lee in my corner. I got Tyson supporting me and helping me. I got strength and conditioning trainer. I got Anthony here. So this camp is going to be by far the best camp I'm going to be involved in, leading into a fight. Every other camp was great, but I'm going to make this one the best.
You mentioned Tyson there. Tell me about your relationship with him, because from what I recall, about 4 years ago, you were trying to bash up his cousin, right? How have you ended up in such a great bromance? How did this happen?
Tyson's a very generous person, and he's been very helpful in my career. He's the reason I've linked with Andy Lee. He has given us the gym to use. He's linked me up with Anthony Presley, who's here from the US, to help with my food. He's, helped us with accommodation, everything that you can think of for a fighter to have a great camp. He's helped with. So I'm very thankful. Seriously, he's like a brother. A lot of people say, "Oh, you guys should fight each other and this and that." But when you have someone like that looking after you and wanting nothing but the best for you and helping you to get there, just got to be grateful.
What has he said about this fight?
He said it's a great fight and a tough fight. He's had experience sparring Joe Joyce for the first Wilder fight, and we've trained alongside each other. So he said it's a tough fight for both of us.
So you've got sort of a bit of intel there. If he sparred Joe Joyce, you've never sparred Joe Joyce, right?
Never sparred.
Despite being in Vegas at around the same time, you've never sparred.
Never sparred. I've seen him train, and but there's a bit of intel. If we haven't really spoken about it with Tyson.
What's it like being away from home? Are your family coming up to stay with you in Morecambe, or are you just completely there in New Zealand?
My wife and my 4 beautiful children, beautiful girls, are back in New Zealand, and it's very hard when they say to you, I got young children, 2 months and then 3, 4, 5 years old. So it's very hard when they're saying to you each day they miss you, but they understand that I'm away working, and I'm doing the best I can to provide for our family. But my wife is the best. She said to me, "You go and you train, you focus on the fight, you go smash them up and then come back."
I was watching a podcast you did in New Zealand, and you said something about when you had your first daughter, I believe Elizabeth. When you had your first daughter, your whole mentality towards boxing changed. You were sort of doing it for them now. You become a provider. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, when I wasn't a father, I was doing boxing, for myself because I enjoyed it, but more so for others. I'm not sure how that sounds, but I was doing it more for my dad because it was his dream. I was doing it for my coach Kevin at the time because he wanted to have a heavyweight world champion. And when I achieved it, I sort of wasn't the happiest, maybe because it was for them. But now that I have my wife and my kids, it's like boxing now, I'm a lot more motivated because I want to do it for myself and my immediate family. You know, does that?
Yeah, look, and you said something there which is interesting. You said like when you achieved it, it didn't quite feel the same. And like you've been kind of the top of the mountain. You've been a world heavyweight champion, and I guess you can react to that differently. And you look at Tyson Fury. He reached the top of the mountain, he dethroned Vladimir Klitschko, and it led to a bit of a downward spiral in his mental health. I mean, how did it work out for you? How did you feel in that position?
I think I went through exactly the same thing, but I didn't look at it as mental health at the time. But now that I'm having a bit more discussions about it, maybe I went through the same thing. But I just didn't realise. Oh, you know, didn't really, you know, I was still training and fighting, wasn't enjoying it. Didn't want to, you know, just didn't want to associate with people, didn't want to talk, was out there doing this and doing that. You know what I mean? So I wasn't, you know, I was still fighting, but I wasn't fighting. I wasn't training properly. I wasn't doing anything right because I don't want to do it, but I was still doing it. So I was doing it with no purpose.
You got a purpose now?
Now I have purpose. Now I'm motivated. Now I'm driven. You know, I have my wife and my kids at home who I've left. I've missed a lot of special occasions, you know, because of this goal that I have.
Talking about goals, well, I think you were about to say it yourself there. I know you're big into that. You're a bit of a thinker. You talk out your sort of goals. What goals have you got left, and do you write them down?
I don't write them down, but I do have them in my head. I should write it down. That would be a good thing to do, start off with anyways. My goal that's further out there is to be champion of the world again, 2-time world champion. I think that'll be amazing to have a fighter from New Zealand and Samoa be 2-time world champion. But the goal is not the champion, like that's further down the track. The goal is to appreciate each fight, appreciate the moment, live in the moment, be present. Because if I think about the stuff in the future, like way down there, I'm not going to enjoy the process. I want to enjoy the training, the food, everything that's involved in the camp. I want to enjoy going home and seeing my family after a camp. But for now, I'm in the UK, I'm in camp, and I'm going to enjoy every single moment of it.
So it's about the journey, not the destination?
Now it's the journey. The destination will take care of itself, whatever it may be, but it's the journey going towards that.
Well, the next stop on that journey is September 24th, AO Arena, Manchester. And it's Joe Joyce. And look, he's a big, tough guy, and he hasn't been beaten. You've said how you feel as though you're different. But are you looking to test that chin? Because we haven't seen him hurt to the chin.
I will test that chin. I will test that body. I will test everything on him. You know, I wouldn't be in this fight if I didn't back myself that I could do the damage and get the result that I want. And same as him. But I'm going there with full confidence that I want to get the job done. I want to get the win. Whether it's on points, whether it's a knockout, I want to get the win.
Do you feel as though he's never boxed anyone like you, and maybe you've never boxed anyone like him?
Yeah. Listen, he can say, I've said to him that he's never boxed anyone like me, and he said he brought up the amateur days, and the amateur days, there is a lot of experience that he's gained from those days, and he's had some great fights in the professional game, but he hasn't fought anyone like me, and I've fought a lot more fights than he has, so I have a lot more experience.
There's extra needle now in this fight. You can see it at the press conference. You know, quack noises have been made in the build-up to this fight. I don't think that's ever happened with you before. You've always been that warrior. So you said at the press conference it doesn't affect you, but I mean, surely when you're logging onto your social media and you're seeing the duck emoji, you know, for example, you're seeing that, right? How do you feel about that?
None of that stuff matters. It's all, listen, you've got a lot of people who don't really appreciate or who don't really enjoy their lives trying to bring others down. But if you give it attention, then it will bring you down, obviously. But I got too many good things to worry about. I got a great camp to worry about. You know, I got Andy Lee coming in next week. I'm enjoying my food. You should see what I had for breakfast. Oh, I'm telling you.
Yeah, you were saying earlier as well. I mean,
listen, the food.
Just talk us through the breakfast, just quickly. Go on.
The breakfast was eggs and chicken and bread, avocado, tomato, and fruits. Oh, I'm telling you, I'm getting hungry just talking about it.
I'm getting hungry as well. Chicken for breakfast? Oh, I'm normally like more of a sort of Frosties man.
Frosties man?
Yeah, probably not good for me.
I don't think you would enjoy our breakfast.
Yeah. Unlikely.
Hold on, I'll just show you quickly, just real fast, because listen, the breakfast is good, but the way it's, like, look at that, I don't know.
Look at that. I mean, can we
Listen,
zoom in on that?
Just,
this is it's all there.
Look at that. Look at that. And then the view. I'm looking outside the water and the Morecambe Bay, and it's just, you know, I am enjoying this breakfast and this view and just having a great time.
And not frosty in sight from
There's
what I
no
can
frosty.
see there as well.
Look at that. That's just
Goodness
wonderful.
me. Elite athlete. Joe, how do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered as a fighter who fought everyone. And a lot of people were saying that I wasn't going to fight Joe Joyce and I was ducking him and this and that. But that's the fight that we wanted, and that's why we're here today.
The stakes are high. Very high.
Very high.
It feels like they might be higher for Joe Joyce. He's WBO #1. Could have sat there. Could have just waited, got his world title shot. He's 36. He's a bit older than you as well. It feels like the road back from a loss is longer. What do you think?
Credit to him, because you're right. He could have just waited there, and he could have just waited for his chance to fight for the world title. But he wants to put it on the line. You know, so both fighters here is the perfect fight for now, and it's the most challenging fight out there for me and for him.
Why is it the perfect fight for you? And you say it's the most challenging.
Because he hasn't been beaten.
So you get
and
a buzz out of that.
A lot of people think that he's invincible and he can take every punch out there, and he's, you know, obviously they call him the juggernaut. But I will show everyone what I could do in the ring.
Give us your final sort of prediction then. What are we going to see you do in the ring September 24th?
Listen, I'm not sure what I want to do. Whether I want to dance around and jab his head off, or want to put the pressure on him. I think it'll come together once Andy Lee comes into camp. He is the person who's going to come up with the perfect game plan. Executed well, what a great night for Team Parker.
Okay, well there you go. September 24th. He says it's going to be a great night for Team Parker. It's on BT Sport Box Office, AO Arena Manchester via ticketmaster.co.uk. Joseph, pleasure.
As always.
I always do that. I always do it. Can we just we'll cut and we'll do it? Yeah, thank you, lovely. Oh, jeez. Yeah, cheers mate.
Cheers, brother.
Joe Joyce, Joe Parker. Why are these two giants with us here?
Because these two giants are going to fight each other and see who's the best giant.
Listen, I'm very excited to be signing with Boxer and you know, Sky.
You know, Joe Parker's not the ranked #1. He's not the mandatory. Joe Joyce is. This is the Joe Joyce business. You want to get that spot, you've got to beat Joe Joyce.
Look, taking the lead, we don't follow. We need it now, not tomorrow. Don't care what they say, not changing the pace.
Why don't we just make the fight happen? Just because he's on BBC Sports and I'm on Sky doesn't mean we can't make it happen.
It's hard to be one of the greats, whatever it takes. Put that on the plate. Life is a gamble, we raising the stakes. Moving the bar up so high. Been on our grind for life. Bringing the light, you just so bright. We shining.
Edging closer to the inner circle. Just got Joe Parker to beat.
Changing the world with this rhyme and this price.
A lot of people don't want to fight Joe Joyce because he's got an engine on him and he can take a punch and he can do a lot of damage.
Chase to the sundown. We on the chase to the sun up. What's up, leader?